Said in the previous video, life is too short. Life is too short to just, feel as if it's meaningless. That you just, use a gun to end somebody's life because you're mad at them or because you're upset or whatever the case may be. It should never involve weapons. Whatever happened to the good old days where we could fight, where we could just, throw blows and realize that was it. That was all we needed to do. I've been sitting at the park a lot lately, gaining some understanding. I can't wait to get my hair done. Gaining some understanding. I'm trying to come into some more clarity. I found myself more peace or more at peace when I'm at the park. It's somewhere that I feel whole. It's somewhere that I feel the most in touch with myself. It's somewhere that I feel the most clarity that can occur. I start writing here. I start thinking deeper here. I understand things that I never really thought I would understand. Like my sister's death, which I struggle still to understand. So I sit at the park. And me sitting at the park, I like to sit closer as if I am, almost touching the clouds so I can maybe, in a sense, hear God, I guess, better. Or, if that makes any sense. The perils of losing with someone to gun violence is just, it's a lifelong darkness. It can be. It's a struggle every single day. It's days where you don't want to get up. It's days where you try to find something to fight for. It's days where you don't realize how precious life truly is. How precious life is what we take for granted. We take for granted the fact that we're able to just get a gun and pull a trigger on somebody just to end it because we feel like we need to, or we feel like we have to. And it's something that we shouldn't do because the perils of, trying to get through that process is horrible. Like I said, I live in it day to day. I'm sorry, I'm sleepy. I'm exhausted. But I wanted to get going and, touch base with you all. I've been sick last week and a half with bronchitis and laryngitis. So I probably shouldn't even be out here. But this is not my original voice. My voice is almost it's still there. But it's first thing in the morning and throughout the day, my voice will fade away. But and then there's that. But I wanted to be as real and as transparent with y'all as possible. I've seen lately more and more, especially in my own city, Cincinnati, where there's been gun violence. And I'm not saying it's not everywhere, it definitely is, but it hits home more when it's your own city, and it hits home more when it's your family. I can remember the day that my sister passed like it was yesterday because I didn't know, you know what I mean? I didn't know until 24 hours later that was my sister, their whole story. And I still live it every day vividly as if it happened yesterday, and I'm going through that next mourning phase of learning that was my sister. It's hard, and being the oldest, you always feel like you have to protect your family, your sister, your siblings. And I went through a whole lot of guilt. I went through a whole lot of trying to cope with that. I went through a whole lot of trying to deal and trying to understand that life is rough. It really is. I remember them carrying her body out, putting the numbers down, and walking up and down the pathway. If you Google my sister, Carrie L. Khan, some of her story is still even active to this day, and it's even after 8 years, almost 8 years, it still feels like yesterday. It's something that never goes away, and I hate that there are people that are still experiencing this feeling. Even like I said, in my own city, within I think the last week and a half, it's been 8 murders back to back. Most of them are not related. But I don't feel. I'm trying to understand what happened, what's going on, what's went wrong. I want to reach out to people, that have been through it and that have endured it. Being a. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Being related to someone that was killed by gun violence, being the sibling and having to bury your brother or sister because your mother can't, or seeing your mother literally at her weakest and not knowing what to do, or seeing your younger sibling, not being able to handle death and still affect her to this day. It can tear families apart. It can tear people apart. God, I'm sorry, y'all. I had a soda to try to make me more alert, and it's failed. But when you're going through something like that, you want to make sure that you, for one, you stick to a lot of prayer. Because I went through a phase of different things that occurred. I went through depression. I went through anxiety. I even went into drinking heavily. And I was losing sleep. Sometimes I still lose sleep. Sometimes I swear up and down I can hear her or she's near me, and I don't have a clear view of her, and it tears me apart. It's like, okay, I see her, she's dangling there, or she's just looking at me, waving at me, but she leaves. And I often want to ask her to stay, but she doesn't, and I don't know, it gets hard to really deal with. But a lot of people have to learn how to handle it. They have to learn how to live your life. So what I had to do is I had to find another way to function. I had to find something else to motivate me, to push me, so that I did not quit. I went through, oh my God, so many schools just because I was trying to find a way to function, find a way to survive. Excuse me. Find a way to live, and it got rough. It got hard, and I went through a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, because they cutting grass. I don't do too well with cutting grass. I have really bad allergies. It gets a little ugly, but I went through a lot, and it got rough. Some days were easier than others. Some days just flat out sucked. You know what I mean? Like, I even tried to commit suicide over my sister, and it was rough. Like I said, trying to be this strong one, trying to be the big sister that I knew my little sister needed, the daughter that I knew my mama needed, and trying to help them cope when at the same time I wasn't able to cope either. So I know what that's like, to not be able to function, to not be able to feel like you can breathe, to not be able to feel like you can move, to not feel like you can do really anything. And the only thing you can do is try to get up, try to function, try to focus in a sense. You have to gain some type of clarity to yourself. And in some ways, that doesn't happen. And in some ways that doesn't become something that's part of your normal. So it gets hard to deal with, and it gets rough. But I want to encourage people that go through it to know that you can survive it. That's the main thing. You can survive anything. We just often think that something's the worst thing that could ever happen, and then we can never survive it. No, that's not the case. Because clearly we can. I'm a living witness that we can. I went through everything, like I said, just dealing with it. And to see it still going on in my city, I want to reach out to the people that are now still suffering or currently suffering from that loss. And I really just want to reach out and hug them. I really want to reach out and just sit and talk to them, to be able to tell them that it's okay. Yes, it's rough, and yes, it definitely sucks right about now. You're angry. Oh my God. And it's to be able to forgive someone that took someone that you loved so much, to take someone, to feel like they took someone from you. And in reality, they did. Reality, they really did. But you have to find it in you, for your soul, for your sake. Beyond your anger, the biggest thing you can do is forgive the person or people that took someone that you loved so dearly. And that's the hardest thing to ever have to do. Believe me, it really is. I struggled with doing so. I struggled so hard. But it felt weird, because once I forgave someone, or forgave the boys that took my sister, I felt like I could then breathe. Hear me out. I felt like that because I felt like I could then breathe, because while she died, she took a part of me with her, which left me to feel like I was suffocating. And in order to no longer suffocate, in order to no longer feel that, I wanted a little bit of closure. Because here's the thing, I would look for the three things. Number one, I knew where she was. Number two, I knew how she lived. And number three, I knew how she died. And these are a lot of the things that keep people from having that closure, from losing that family member, because they don't know these three things, or they know one, or they know two, and they don't know the other. And it's rough to not be able to know. A lot of people are going out here nowadays and they don't know who killed their loved one. They just know their loved one was found dead somewhere. They know their loved one was shot. That's about it. But there is no witnesses. There's no evidence, no nothing. I was unfortunately able to say that I was blessed to know who did it and why. Because a lot of times that's what you want to know, right? You want to know why they took the person that you love, why they took your family member, why they took your friend, why, you know. And to then know why meant everything to me. That meant more, because yes, I you know, her being gone, it hurts. Oh my God, I'm not gonna lie to you and say that it doesn't. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it and say you're not gonna have your angry moments where you're gonna say fuck the world, yeah, whatever they want to do, how they want to do it, I don't care, this, that, and the other. But you have to find your way. You have to find your purpose. And that leads me back to what I previously said, in finding your sole reason to function. Your sole reason to function has to be what drives you. It has to be what pushes you forward. It has to be what gives you momentum to get into your next journey, your next phase. The next phase is no longer grieving. The next phase is then learning to relive. Because you lived with that person for however long they were in your life. Sibling, whatever, family, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, whoever, wife, however they died, you know, the innocence of grief in a sense. But with murder, it's like they're here today, gone tomorrow, right? So you have to then, you're like, okay, you spend your entire life, you spend a lot of your time trying to make sure everybody remembers that story, trying to make sure nobody forgets who that person was, you feel me? So you have to find your way to function. You have to find what motivates you so that you can further push them. Does that make sense? And it's hard to do sometimes. It's hard to understand. It's hard to cope with. It's hard to live with the pain, because that pain does not go away. I would be lying if I said it did. But that one thing that's going to drive you is because you're going to want to make sure that that person that you lost is forever remembered. I'll say that again. You're going to want to make sure that that person that you lost is forever remembered. The one thing I did vow to always do is make sure that my sister's memory will never be forgotten. So you sit and talk to me long enough, I will tell you my sister's story. I will tell you how she died. I will tell you the day of her passing. And then I will tell you, more importantly, how she lived, because how she died is not as nearly as important as how she lived. You know, she was full of life. And these are things that I have to know to take care of the most. These are things that I want to show and prove the most out of everything. You know, I want to show and prove how she lived. That she knew what she was doing. That she knew who she was. And that she knew God. And these are all just things that I knew I had to forgive those boys that took my sister. I knew I had to forgive them, because she knew who God was. And I feel like once you know who God is, yes, it hurts. It definitely hurts. But I knew, because she knew God, I knew she was with him. So I knew where she was. So I knew who she was. That was one. I knew where she was. That was two. And because I knew they took her, and I knew why they took her. That was my three. And what's going to make sense to you is the fact that there's the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, right? For all those that believe in the word, I'm not talking about your denomination. I'm talking about your truest belief, okay? Your truest heart of hearts belief. You believe in the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Okay, so like I told you, I had to have those three things in order for me to forgive. I can't forget. Oh, I will never forget. But in order to do that one main thing, the hardest thing that there is ever to do, and if we say we want to be like Christ, he could forgive a thief and forgives us daily, right? I had to find it in myself. I had to find it in myself to forgive those 3 that took my baby from me, that took my baby sister from me, my middle sister, my heart. It was rough, and it still is. But because I had those 3, and because of also the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, I knew what I had to do. I had to forgive. I had to forgive. And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's something that you have to do. And do it in your own time. Let me do that in your own time. When you feel in your heart that you're ready, you do that. But I know what I had to do. Anybody that's watching this, I'm hoping that this gives you some encouragement, some feedback, some understanding that it's hard. And I'm not going to tell you that it's not hard. I'm not going to tell you that it's going to be easy. I'm certainly not going to tell you a bunch of lies and BS that you don't need to really hear. I'm going to keep it 100 with you and be as transparent as I know how to be with you. And I'm hoping that maybe you see this video and you share it with somebody else that may need to hear it, of forgiving in spite of that pain. That's one of the hardest things to ever really do. One of the hardest things you will ever do. But one of the most enlightening and realest things that you can ever do is forgive someone that took something so precious from you. It can be done. It can be done, and it's hard. Boy, it's hard. But it's something that you realize it in a sense that you have to. You have to. If you want to get peace, and you ever want to get closure for yourself, you ever want to feel some type of breath in your lungs, because it feels as if right now you're suffocating. You're we didn't even have to identify her body. So for some, you may have to do that. You may have to identify the body, and you may have to pick out clothes and write obituaries and things of that nature, and even get into the actual funeral where you know after this day that loved one is officially gone. You're not going to see them anymore. Yes, granted, you're seeing them this final time in a box, in a casket, and that's final. You know, you don't wake up from that. That's not something that you just wake up from. But you'll find it in your heart that you'll have to. You'll have to. And I hope that for your sake and for your own heart that you can. That's the end of this video. That's something I really wanted to talk about on that particular area. Oh, and I guess my last bit is just put the guns down. Put them down. They hurt people more than you know. You take a loved one, you're taking their life, and people that love them lives as well. So do me a favor, put them down. Bye.